Ask the Awakened, The Negative Way by Wei Wu Wei. Dedication and benediction. We are all dedicated, though we know it not. There is only one dedication, for that which we are, when we know that we are, is not either subject nor object. Therefore, dedication can only be to the extinction of that which dedicates. The benediction of those who already know is surely that we may understand the truth that can neither be conceived nor expressed. The truth is manifest when we know that we neither are nor are not. In order to see that, we do not have to look, but to cease to look, for where there is no looking, it is. When the dreamer wakens, he is absolute absence. Forward. My original copy of Ask the Awakened, here on the desk beside me, was published in 1963, almost 40 years ago. It is heavily marked with margin notes and underlining. Important pages have been turned down at the corners, and a bunch of ragged bits of paper are sticking out all over to mark places of special significance. Quite possibly this crisp new book that you are holding in your hands will look just like that in a year or two. The portrait of Hui Neng, the sixth patriarch, on the front piece of that edition instantly reminds me of Wei Wu Wei's deeply penetrating understanding of the early Chan masters. I continue to be awestruck by this every time I open one of his books. One can also tell that although he was enormously serious about the subject, it was also a great source of pleasure and fun for him. There is still no way I can, even now, read the entire book quickly, so I am writing this introduction also from the perspective of all Wei Wu Wei's works that I have been fortunate enough to acquire, and of my own correspondence with him and his wife Natasha, and what tidbits others have shared with me who also knew him. I love Wei Wu Wei most of all because he accomplished the impossible with me. He never could have helped anyone else any more than he helped me, simply because I had such a long way to come. He has much told me so once. He did so not only with great wisdom, but also with great patience and affection and humour. I owe him a great debt and appreciate him more and more as the wonder of this continues to unfold in ever more profound ways, moment by moment. There are others who know Wei Wu Wei's life history much better than I, and there are others who knew the person better than I. I knew Wei Wu Wei only through our correspondence and his books. Soon after discovering one of his books, I was lucky enough to have gotten hold of his Monaco address and his real name, for Wei Wu Wei was actually a pen name. It means, as I recall, action that is non-action, pure function, or what he also termed non-volitional living. Therefore, I feel the best contribution I could make on the occasion of this very welcome reprint of Ask the Awakened is to help new Wei Wu Wei readers with some tips that, from my experience, may be helpful on how to approach this book and find the wonderful treasure that awaits them. For, as I found out when I first urged others to read his books, it is not always immediately obvious that it is a treasure. Somewhat like a mythological elfin city, It may at first look rather unlikely from the outside, but once you have entered, you realize you are in a wondrous place. To begin with, it will help to start this book with the assumption, or if you can manage it, the belief, that what Wei Wu Wei is telling us is absolutely true as far as can be expressed. Your own intuition will soon recognize the ring of truth, but it may not be what you expect. And instead of mentally arguing about the parts that one may not agree with or that do not make sense, set aside for a while and just try to understand how it could be true, because he is speaking to us from actual experience, not from conjecture, theory, learned doctrine, or even from mere belief. This is a rare opportunity. Wei Wu Wei knew of no fully awakened masters in the West and knew that most of us would never have access to one. That leaves us with only the sutras and writings from the past to work with on our own. Yet often the available translations are flawed because they have been mistranslated by those who have no understanding. However, in the course of his own search, he also found a way that we too can awaken on our own. For in the end, it all comes down to that anyway. It is the negative way. The negative way can be disconcerting because instead of learning yet more concepts about what we are, to add to our precious store of esoteric knowledge, as we are accustomed to doing, the negative way is about losing them. Not just losing the wrong concepts, but all of them. Since it is impossible to express what we are with words or concepts, we may only recognize what we are by eliminating what we are not. Indeed, it can be tough at first. Wei Wu Wei was a scholar and his facility with languages was considerable. He has used words many of us have never seen before. However, though a scholar, his approach to this matter of awakening is anything but dry and boring. He stalks awakening with great enthusiasm, zest, and wry humor, thoroughly enjoying every minute of the adventure. This is no mere scholarly treatise, but an attack upon your very mind, to cut it off at the root. So, if you are very fortunate and very diligent, this book can take you to a place where you can't advance, you can't retreat. You can't retreat, and alas, you have nothing whatsoever left to stand upon. This is his mission. Yet, he does this with such kindness and deftness that we hardly know it is happening until it is too late. He makes it seem like play. He turns the mind's own flawed logic against itself and exposes the illusion that it is. One by one, he pries and coaxes from us every precious concept of what we are and every feeble notion of volition. This book is very powerful. He is honest with you. You must be honest with him. He is precise in his use of words, so that his writing is never sloppy or thoughtlessly crafted as so much of the so-called metaphysical writing is today. If he could find a word that said it better and more concisely, he used it. I found I had to keep a large dictionary close by whenever I was reading one of his books. I shared his letters with several other close friends. In one of these letters, Wei Wu Wei included the short line, "Life is basically oniric." ONEIRIC. Unfortunately, none of us knew what that meant. We were like the stories told of the seeker who climbs a high mountain in Tibet to reach the great master sitting alone at the summit to ask him the true meaning of life. Here, the answer was in our very hands, and we didn't know what the word meant. A frantic search began. We couldn't find it in any of the dictionaries we owned. Even now, as I write this piece in my word processor is underlining oniric in red to tell me it doesn't recognize it. When I clicked on spell check, it could find nothing to suggest. Even the librarian at the public library didn't know the word and had trouble finding it. Eventually she found a word that sounded like it, but was spelled slightly differently. It turned out that Wei Wu Wei had spelled it differently. But even if he hadn't, we would still have had a hard time finding it. If you don't know already what one-eric means, I'm certainly not going to spoil it for you by revealing it here. You may look it up as we did and experience for yourself a bit of what we enjoyed. And yes, it is indeed a good explanation of the meaning of life. Moreover, I found that his use of unfamiliar, to me, words was actually a great benefit. I didn't realize it at the time, but I had attached habitual, unconscious concepts to the religious, spiritual, philosophical, and metaphysical terms I knew. This often blinded me to seeing it any other way. I had overlaid these terms with layers of meanings that turned me in the wrong direction and left no room for new interpretations. With Wei Wu Wei's unfamiliar words, I now had only the barest meaning to go on, and I believe this allowed me to be more open to perceive in new directions. Some may be put off if they cannot immediately understand a seemingly enigmatic paragraph. But, to be sure, Wei Wu Wei is not just trying to be abstruse, nor is he being affected, nor trying to be cute, nor deliberately trying to make it harder for us. Actually, he is attempting to take us, even prod us, beyond our logic to something that cannot be thought or said. As he told me, rationality can take you only so far. It might be assumed that possibly the reason this great secret can't be told in words or concepts is just because it is too complicated and esoteric to be explained, or that maybe it is so magnificent that the words just haven't been invented yet. Some new readers might even think, maybe this fellow knows something I don't. But if he does, why doesn't he just come right out and say it? But Wei Wu Wei demonstrates that it is not that at all. Rather, it is the very nature of the way the thought mechanism itself works that obscures this most important recognition. I like paradoxes, those seeming contradictions that bring one's thoughts up short. So personally, I found Wei Wu Wei's distinctive style very enjoyable. For instance, one of my favourite paradoxes is one that came about when a London newspaper publisher was asked, during a newspaper workers' strike, what his headline would have been today. He answered, "All is quiet on Fleet Street." Because I liked paradoxes, I do think it helped me to hang in there when I was really stumped. A couple of examples of Wei Wu Wei's paradoxes are, I am, but there is no me. And why are you unhappy? Because 99% of everything you think and everything you do is for yourself, and there isn't one. Read this book straight through. Don't even think about it. Not if you are serious about understanding it. Though if you are not serious, you will never make it through to the last page anyway. I seem to remember that a Wei Wu Wei reviewer said something to the effect that most of the time the book will be sitting unread on your knee while you ponder each paragraph. How often have you encountered a book so filled with meaning that it was able to capture you as completely as that? Though he has found great meaning in the Eastern religions and holds them in the highest regard, he is not over-involved in the affectations and traditions that many in the West seem to think is a necessary part of them. Because Wei Wu Wei has such a profound understanding of Eastern as well as Western mystical writings, he has been able to go to the heart of them and present their essence to us with a new purity that we in the West can greatly benefit from. This is entirely in the spirit of the original Chan masters. He was, along with Douglas Harding, Robert Linson, Paul Reps, and a few others, even in my opinion, Nisargadatta Maharaj, a trailblazer when it comes to creating a wholly Western approach to this ancient insight, unencumbered with unnecessary cultural artifices. Although he himself characterized his writings as an intermediate stage, a presentation in modern idiom supported by the authority of the great masters. His terse statements like, "Cease identification with all phenomenality," are at first puzzling, even frustrating. But then, if it finds any suitable soil to take root, it has the power to eventually reclaim the whole mind. I see this seemingly innocuous phrase as working almost like the modern-day computer virus. Once it gets into the mind, it begins to erase, bit by bit, all that you think you are, and all that you think you do, and all that you think you have, until the obvious dawns, and what you are shines forth, breaking through the clearing mists of obnubilation. Once recognized, there can no longer be any doubt. Galen Sharp, August 2001.